Hey everyone, today, March 4th, 2015, we're here to talk about Retrofit Records, Tallahassee, Florida's sole vinyl record store. My name is Seth Trailer, and sitting beside me is Bradley Ellison, the store manager who runs the store alongside Shared Binds, and Adam Kent, also store managers. So Bradley, before I ask about the store, I'd like to find out a little bit more about you. So, how did you come to be at the record store owner?
Well, it's a long story, but basically I had been working over at college radio station as a music director there, and Sherrod had been booking a whole lot of bands to play through town at the time, and me and him, we talked for a little while after Vinyl Fever closed, because several of the bands that he booked wanted to go check out the record store in town, and there wasn't one after Vinyl Fever closed. So we decided that it would be a good idea to start one on our own, and really everything just sort of fell into place. Our friend's business was going out of business, and it was perfect timing for us in a lot of different ways.
That's cool. So what happened to Vinyl Fever? Do you know anything about how
well, Vinyl Fever was owned by someone named Lee Wolfson. He sold it to a larger record store company in the mid-2000s. That company then a couple years later went out of business. And so Vinyl Fever was still doing well. They were actually the top performing store in that chain, but when the chain collapsed, the store had to as well.
That makes sense. All right, and so in total, how much time, money, and planning was needed for you to open Retrofit?
I can't calculate exactly that. I know that we probably spent about 10 grand or so, maybe for everything. We didn't take out any loans or anything like that to start the store. Yeah, we just did it with our own cash.
So you really didn't have to have much startup capital.
Yeah, the most we needed was for the different records and things like that.
Exactly.
And for construction material. Everything else was just a lot of labor on our own.
Yeah.
We probably worked for a couple months on everything, and honestly, in a lot of ways, it feels like we're still putting in a lot of work.
Exactly. It definitely looks like it. So what's your daily routine here?
Usually I come here and check and see if I need to I check and see if anyone has messaged or emailed us about any records in particular, which happens a lot. For some reason, we get hit up on Facebook at 11 o'clock at night a whole lot.
Just random ideas, I guess.
Yeah. So I try to respond to that then, and then almost usually there's someone waiting for me when I get here. So usually I just try to help those people out.
Yeah.
And then I put out I have a whole bunch of CDs in the back. I usually go through them, price some of them, put them out on the floor, and then I just wait.
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory stuff.
Yeah, it's really pretty minimal work on a lot of levels. The only time I have any work to do is when there's when I have shipments, or when someone's trying to sell me things, or straightening up after other people.
That's great. All right. So aside the convenience factor any retailer presents to the consumers, how else do you benefit your customers?
I don't know, well, for one, there's the only other places in town where you can buy records are Urban Outfitters and Sam Goody, neither of which have the exact same records that we do. I mean, Urban Outfitters can get different things than we can, there's a lot of exclusive things that they can get that we can't, but at the same time, they don't order the great variety of things that we do. So that's one way. Another way, Another way is that everyone that works at the store is a huge dork, in a lot of ways. We basically obsess over music. So we can, if anyone ever asks or talks to us about things, if it's something that we know about, then we can throw some knowledge over it.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool. All right. So what's your outlook on the record industry as a whole, and what customer outreach is being done to ensure its continuation?
Record industry is really strange right now.
Yeah.
It's at a point that it's never been before, and probably never will be again. I'm not sure, because barring the smaller record labels, everything seems to be oriented towards a weird collector market, and that's, I think, strange and unhealthy. But the smaller indie record labels have it right, and they're selling records at fairly normal prices. The way it would get better is if things were treated less as a collector's item and more to, as like an actual like piece of music.
Instead of making like it's such a tight niche and just kind of like branching it out to other people basically.
Yeah, because like there is something to be said about like owning and listening to like music in like a tangible physical form. Exactly. Like it's different than just listening to something on your computer or like off someone's phone or even off the radio. You know, it's like totally different. And listening to records as well is a different experience than listening to like a tape or a CD. And so if I think that like for this store and for like really like the music industry in general to improve, like the record companies would have to treat their products a little bit differently. Okay, cool.
And now let's talk shops. So what do you think the barriers to entry would be to open a record store? Like what you've been through. The barriers to entry, like the startup capital, the location.
What was the question? Sorry.
What would be the barriers to entry?
The barriers?
Yeah, the barriers.
Well, one, like you'd have to consider like the town that you're in or the town that you'd be opening up a store in. I'm from Melbourne, Florida, and there's been a couple record stores that have tried to like open there, none of which have lasted very long, largely because it's not an area populated by young people. Like there are people there, like high school age and younger, but not very many people there stay after high school. So there's not as many people buying music. The great majority of people buying music tend to be like in their 20s.
Yeah, so you have to appeal to a certain age group.
Right. Okay. Right. Also on top of that, like you have to consider like the size of the city. Like a store, like a record store, does better in towns that have at least like 150,000 people or more. Yeah, like that's why like places like Dothan, Alabama is not going to have a record store.
Exactly. All right. So what steps must be taken to turn any collection into a store?
Well, like I don't know, like are you talking about like with each record or what?
Well, it would just say like someone has a massive collection and they want to be able to sell the records on a commercial level. How would they be able to do so?
Well, if they have a whole lot of records that they want to sell on the commercial level, they would have to get a business license and go through all the legal steps in order to have like a business. Exactly. And then they would have to know and understand like the market for records and music in general. Yeah. Like if they have like thousands and thousands of records, but it's of an artist that no one listens to anymore, then they might as well just skip out on like trying to do anything on a business level. But like if they have things that people like and still appreciate, then then they would have to figure out exactly how much like each and every individual item should cost according to like both collector's value and like demand for the record, and then also like the local economy.
Okay, perfect. And what specific licenses do record stores need to do?
Really none. Like basically just like the very like entry level like local, state, and like federal like tax things and like business license, like standard stuff. Okay. Yeah, there's no like organization or anything like that where you have to like sign up to be a member or anything like that in order to open a record store.
So how do you know which records will sell and which won't?
I don't. Yeah, that's the thing. Like if I order like a record by a popular artist, it's not necessarily going to sell. Like one example is like I have the Luca Lee albums. Like she's like fairly successful. Like every once in a while I'll check like different websites that like catalog like people's plays on the internet to like figure out exactly like if something would sell on record or not. Like Luca Lee is fairly like successful online. A whole lot of people listen to her music, but I've not sold any of her records. Other times like I will sell records by people who have like a 10th or 100th or 1,000th of the plays of like someone like her or like even the Beatles,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kind of just depends on the people here and like what they prefer.
Right, and even then, like a lot of people order their records online because oftentimes you'll get like special collector's items for ordering things online or like limited edition colors or whatever. Like so, it's really just hard to tell.
Okay, that makes sense. How do you know when and where to buy your records? Is that another question?
That's a tricky question. It's one that I can't necessarily answer. Because there's a whole lot of different like factors that come into play for that.
Definitely. All right, so what are the typical profit margins you make on each record?
I don't really want to answer that question.
Yeah, that sounds. And so who would your competitors be, and do they affect your profits?
The number one competitor would be the internet, and online stores in general. After that would be like Urban Outfitters and Sam Goody, like in terms of like local things.
Okay. And who do you think generally are the opinion leaders of the entire record industry, and do they affect the records you purchase?
Those would generally be like anyone that's a critic in general. Like larger scale music critics are like the people that largely drive the industry, and those are like I will immediately sell more copies of a record if someone at Pitchfork gives something a higher review than if they don't. And like if like an otherwise successful artist gets a low grade on like a popular like website or magazine, then I will not sell any of that record.
Okay, that makes sense, definitely. All right, so looking on, where would you think the window of opportunity be for like upcoming stores?
No. Like
Okay.
right now.
Really? Okay, where out?
Like now until like I don't know. It's really hard to tell where the market will go. Or
Yeah,
what will happen.
exactly. Okay. All right, and what do you think would be the single best piece of advice you could give for upcoming records?
I would say start off with a large amount of things. Like start off with like trying to have a lot of like a variety of records on hand, like when you open, because that's like the #1 way that like you would expand your business.
So it's really variety. Okay.
Exactly.
And for our last question, is there anything you plan to change about retrofit in the near future?
Just like there's a whole lot of changes that we're like thinking about that we haven't like decided upon.
Yeah.
So there's no telling as of yet what we're doing for sure,
it's
but we have a couple of ideas in hand. Like I know that like in the past we had done like different like concerts here.
Yeah.
We can't do that anymore, but we're considering about like moving possibly like going to a location where that would be possible, or like having a second location where that is the majority of what happens. Like that's the only thing that I know of off the top of my head that might actually happen.
Yeah, having live bands coming here would definitely increase.
Definitely.
For sure. All right, so yeah, I appreciate your time here, Bradley, and the much needed heart of musical culture you've offered for Tallahassee.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yep.